Hi everyone, so in this video we'll be looking at algebraic fractions. Now what exactly are algebraic fractions? So algebraic fractions are just like regular fractions, just that we have letters or we have variables in them. So here I have some examples of algebraic fractions. So the first one, 2x over 8. The second one is 4 over x plus 1. Then we have 2p all over q minus 1. Y plus 5 over 6. So they all have some letters involved in it. So they are algebraic fractions. So let's just do two random more examples. If we have 5 over m, that's an algebraic fraction. And if we have 6 minus x over 7 plus x, that's also algebraic fraction. So obviously you know what it is by seeing that it's in a fraction form, has a numerator and a denominator, and there are variables or there are letters in them. So now let's look at some examples with adding and subtracting algebraic fractions. Now I know many students don't like adding or subtracting fractions or just fractions in general, right? So I really suggest you go and you look at the videos that I did with addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. Go back and look at all of those before you tackle algebraic fractions, right? So let's look at this first example here. We have x over 2 plus y over 3. Now we treat it just like regular fractions, meaning that when you're working out adding or subtracting regular fractions, the first thing you need to do is find the LCM, find that common denominator. Here our denominators are 2 and 3. Right, so we know that the LCM of 2 and 3 is 6. So now let's make each fraction x over 2 and then y over 3. We want to make those two new fractions over the LCM or over that new common denominator of 6. So 2 times 3 gives me 6. So I have to do the same thing at the top. X times 3. X times 3 is 3x. I know some of you are probably thinking x3. We write the number in front, right? 3x. And then let's come across here. 3 times 2 gives me 6. So y times 2 will give me 2y. And now we have our two fractions with that denominator of 6. So now we're just going to add them, right? 3x over 6 plus 2y over 6, right? And that's my new denominator. And just adding numerators. 3x plus 2y. And we're leaving the answer just like this, right? Because remember, when we did simplifying algebraic expressions, you can't simplify further 3x plus 2y because x and y are two completely different letters, right? So you just leave the final answer just like that. 3x plus 2y all over 6, right? And again, just treat these fractions, these algebraic fractions, just like regular fractions. Don't panic when you see them, right? Now let's look at this next example. A over 4 take away a over 5. So that's my two fractions. Again, we know the LCM of 4 and 5 is 20. So you want to make each fraction now, which I did at the side already there on the left hand side. Each fraction, you make it a new fraction over that new common denominator, that LCM of 20, right? So let's go. 4 by 5, I said the answer from before. 4 by 5 is 20, so to do the same thing at the top, a by 5 is 5a. Next side, 5 by 4 gives me the 20, so do the same thing at the top, a by 4 is 4a. And from there, we're just going to put it in. So now, 5a over 20 take away 4a over 20, right? And then that's all over 20, so we get 5a take away 4a, which remains with 1a over 20. Or you could just write it as a over 20, right? And so you see how, with practice, it gets a little bit easier, so don't panic, right? So let's look at some more examples. So now it gets a little more interesting. We have two fractions here. 1 over 3x plus 1 over 5y. Now, before in our first few examples, we had only numbers alone as the denominators. But now we have a number and a letter, a variable together, right? Now, what do we do now to find the LCM? So let's try to figure out what really is the LCM of these two denominators. We have 3x and we have 5y, right? Now looking at the numbers separately, 3 and 5, we know that the LCM of 3 and 5 is 50. Good, we have that down. But what with the x and y? With the x and y, again, they are totally different. So you just have to put them in, x, y. So the LCM is 15xy, right? So now, let's make our two fractions. So 1 over 3x and 1 over 5y. New fractions all over that LCM, right? Of 15xy. So let's see how we are getting this here. Now, we know that 3 by 5 will give us the 15, right? But how are we getting the y? We have to actually multiply by y as well. So 3 by 5 is 15 and x by y gives me the xy. So then you multiply the top by that 5y again, right? So you get 5y, right? Let's use a different color so we can see that a little bit better. So now 5y, how do we get the 15xy? Again, we know 15 by 3 gives me the, 5 by 3 gives me the 15. And then y by x will give me that xy. So I'll do the same thing on top here, right? And I'll get 3x. So now I have my two new fractions, right? So the original fractions were 1 over 3x plus 1 over 5y. So now we will get 5y over 15xy plus then 3x over 15xy. And you put the common denominator, 15xy, and then we just add it up, 5y plus 3y. And again, for the top, we can't simplify it further because x and y are totally different, right? And yeah, that's our final answer there. So let's look at the second, the last example. Here we have, right? So this one is a little bit longer, right? And can look a little bit scary. So we have 3 over x plus 2 plus 4 over x plus 1. So now, in this case, we have x plus 2 and x plus 1 as our denominators, right? So they are two completely different denominators. So in that case, just multiply the two of them. So you're going to get x plus 2 by x plus 1, right? Well, you can put your multiplication sign in between, right? And remember, you can leave out the multiplication sign because it's understood to be there, right? And that is our LCM. This is what we have here. Same thing I just wrote out there, right? Now, we need to make each fraction now a new fraction with that LCM, that new common denominator. So let's go again. 3 over x plus 2, and we want to get that new get it over that new denominator of x plus 2, x plus 1, right? And then down here, same thing we want to do for the 4 over x plus 1, because we need the new denominator as well, right, for that fraction. Change the color again so we don't get too mixed up here. Alright, so now we have x plus 2 here, right? How are we getting this new denominator? Well, clearly we need to multiply, right? When we multiply by x plus 1, we get that new denominator. So do the same thing at the top, right? So you get 3 times x plus 1, right? And then down here now, x plus 1 multiplied by x plus 2, and we're going to get that new denominator and do the same thing at the top, x plus 2. So you get 4 times x plus 2. So this here and this here are my two new fractions that we are going to use, right? So now let's put them together, right? So now we have 3 times x plus 1 all over x plus 2 x plus 1, right? And now we have, sorry, this should be addition, 4 times x plus 2 all over x plus 2 by x plus 1. And now let's just simplify, right? Put your new denominator there. I'm going to simplify it up, right? So now we're going to get x times x plus 1 plus 4 times x plus 2. Now we could simplify this a little further. We could simplify the top a little further by removing the arms. So we will get here. Let's come down a little bit. Right. So now 3 times x is 3x. 3 times 1 is 3, right? Cool. Plus 4 times x is 4x plus 4 times 2 is 8. Right? And oh, I believe yes. Right? So just ignore this little piece here actually, right? This is supposed to be 2. So you see how it's good to check over your work, right? And how I made that little mistake here. Now that I'm doing it over, right? So we'll just fix that when we're ready, right? Alright. And then our denominator is x plus 2 by x plus 1. And then we just simplify. 3x plus 4x is 7x. And then 3 plus 8 is 11. All over our new denominator. And that is our final answer there, right? So now let's just fix it. 4x plus 8. And then this will be 7x plus 11, right? See how it's so good to check over your work. Even I make mistakes, right? But yes, when you're doing math, sometimes you try to hurry it down, or you find there's so much work in you already did, and it's like you don't want to try check over, right? But case in point here, right? You need to check over your work, right? And it's a good thing I actually wrote it down at the side here, so I picked up on my error there, right? So one last little point I have here. So whenever the denominators are different, simply multiply them to get your LCM. You know, sometimes when you all see two denominators, I will say like 8 and 4, right? The LCM of 8 and 4 is 8. But some children, let's say 8 times 4, and the LCM is 32. It's not the lowest common multiple, but you could use the common that common denominator of 32. You just would have to reduce your final answer, right? So yes, just multiply your two denominators, right? When you have your fraction, your letters, right? Any denominator. So any questions? I know this is a lot to take in. Try over the questions. We have another video coming up with an exercise, right? And any questions, feel free to ask. All of these are in my notes, right? So I'm always here when you need me. So I'll see you all in my next video.